Today on The Next Generation, the first log entry is the medical officer's log. Yes! This is a great magic trick with the turbolift, but I do have to take 1 point since it just took off without Dr. Pulaski telling it where she wanted it to go. This is The Next Generation Critic, where we take points away for the errors, and the episode today is the Schizoid Man, where Data meets his grandpa. Ira Graves must be pretty rich to buy a planet and name it Graves World. -1 point for a teenager flying the ship without a pilot's license. -1 point for Diana Muldaur not being listed as a regular. -1 point for that reflection. It's the backside of Worf and a big camera light. And now a black square magically appears, so -1 more point. -1 point, Deanna has no rank. Data's new image is to be like the third baseman. Geordi poses like Peter Pan. Data has a beard, but it's too much for Deanna and she had to run out. Supposedly her laughing and leaving wasn't scripted, but it turned out perfectly. And -1 point for this teaser making you think there's a monster on the planet. Now there's a new black square on the back panel. The Constantinople is in danger. Wesley says 2012 when he should say 2012. Dr. Pulaski says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Riker wants to go rogue and execute them all. Wesley says, I number 1. This is the only time we see Lieutenant Solar. -1 point for credits 6 minutes into the episode. -1 point for Graves World being a gas giant. -1 point for the touch and go transport. It would be impossible for a spaceship that big to stop after traveling 600 times the speed of light, then taking off 10 seconds later. They did that just to freak out Deanna. And the Enterprise is now too far out of range for that communicator to work, so -1 point. Now for the beautiful Karine Brianin. Aww. She must be drunk, she thinks she's from the Enterprise. And now here comes Dr. Ira Graves, who's kind of a dirty old man. Karine would know more about alien species, so -1 point. Star Trek is usually really good at predicting the technology of the future, but they missed the internet completely. Dr. Ira Graves is about to get a good old-fashioned ass-whooping from Lieutenant Worf. Worf's thinking, why can't I just kill him? He's gonna die anyways. Look closely, there is a robot next to Data. -1 point for Ira not saying, hey, you look just like Dr. Sung. Nobody in the entire Federation notices the resemblance. This is a possible that's what she said moment. Dr. Solar can barely look at him when she says he has Darnay's disease and it's terminal. This is the look you make when you realize you should have called the doctor a long time ago. According to these two logs, they fixed the Constantinople and cured the passengers in about 45 minutes, so -1 point. Another square in the background. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. I gotta admit, he's got a nice office. Data now identifies as a grandpa. Now he wants a happy ending. How could they get away with saying this on 80s TV? Here's a good that's what she said moment. Data's interest in that song causes him to lower his guard. There is a fuzzy timeline about how long they're actually on the planet, so -1 more point. So has this poor girl been on the planet her whole life with just Ira Graves? Ira Graves talks about how humble he is.
Well, that is because I'm an incredible man.
However, anyone this close to death will say whatever they want. Data is about 29 years old. Why is it in that time he never met the one scientist that worked with Dr. Sung and studied cybernetics? So -1 more point. Ira Graves may have created the leap to transfer his consciousness to a holographic avatar, or at least a self-aware computer program. After all, the doctor is right around the corner. Poor Data is just too trusting and too naive, and sadly, it's always his family members who take advantage of him. If Ira Graves turned Data off, transferred his knowledge, then died, how did Data get turned back on? There's no explanation, so -1 point. They're like, something's wrong about this, isn't there? -1 point for not leaving a science team to study Ira's work. They might have learned something. This is a great shot of the beautiful Barbara Allen Woods and a great special effect. Where was she stargazing on that gas giant? Then Ira in Data's body tells Karine deep dark secrets that Ira always wanted to tell her. And after he leaves, she's thinking, did I just get hit on by an android? His mustache is completely different, so -1 point. And who's flying the ship, Dr. Pulaski? -1 more point. It is highly unlikely they would beam him onto the ship just to beam him out into space. The service would have been on the planet, so -1 point. Brent Spiner gives excellent eulogies, but you're gonna have to watch the actual show to see it. Look closely, the casket is beamed away with the base, but now the base is gone, so -1 point, and another point lost since that is a picture in the casket and not a person. Captain Picard knows not to be this friendly at a funeral, so -1 point. Jean-Luc performs a Picard maneuver. Have you ever noticed whenever Data is acting strange, they say, "Oh, you're just being human." Data has now become a dirty old man, just like his grandpa. Yes! -1 point for the captain's log talking down to the audience like we forgot everything during the commercial break. -1 point for a single set of doors on the turbolift. This black square here randomly comes and goes, so I'll be taking 1 point for that. Wesley wants to know what's gotten into Data, and the truth is out. It's because of a girl. Data mentions men of limited intellect, and Riker's like, is he talking about me? Data acts like a total turd on the bridge, and Karine is thinking, wow, my first time off the planet in 20 years and already 2 men are fighting over me. If this was filmed today, that phrase would mean she only cares for older women. Deanna's thinking, great, now I have to give therapy to an android and Barclay. In reality, Picard is thrilled since he hasn't fought over a girl in decades. Data makes things worse by quoting a child abductor.
Are you ill, Captain? Are you ill, Captain?
Geordi gets to play with the Halo machine. If Data's attitude gets worse, Picard's going to female dog slap him across the ship. This unusual personality program would not have current images of Ira or Karine, so -1 point. And the fact that it's designed for humans but got the android condition down perfectly is another techno jump just for the script, so -1 more point. This time the computer didn't have arrows directing him like in the pilot, so -1 point. Data visits the stargazing Karine while she's thinking, I heard he liked blondes, but why is he this horny right after a funeral? Then she learns the horrible secret, and this is horrible English, it should be, it is I. Ira Graves made the jump. He was successful in his experiment. However, dead people possessing live people's bodies, even androids, is illegal. Dr. Sillar always stands with her hands behind her back. She's thinking, ha ha, I'm taller than Deanna, and I'm coming back as a Klingon, I'm gonna fool around with Worf. Then I'm gonna fool around with Q, and now we're gonna have a baby together, and then I'm gonna be an Andorian. Deanna's like, I can read your mind, we're supposed to be talking about Data. Ira's saying, guess what works again? She's like, what? So is he planning on creating an android body for her now or later when she's older? Of course, Ira doesn't know how to handle Data's strength. Captain Picard quotes Sonnet 18 of Shakespeare. Picard ends with an ethical dilemma. He might have to shoot Data, you never know. Patrick Stewart's thinking, the best part of this show is I get to ride the elevator. Ira says the first baseman lives and the second baseman dies. Picard's like, why is the first baseman next? Why are there only 2 people in engineering? -1 point. Picard does not offer to save him as a self-aware hologram, which they just dealt with. He just says give Data back, so -1 point. Karine's hand is broken. -1 point for Picard confronting Data alone. And -1 point for a terribly fake fall. Still nobody in engineering, -1 more point. Picard's like, thank you doctor, but why didn't security come with you? I know medical technology in the future is advanced, but this is only a few minutes later. Karine should still have a brace on her hand, so -1 point. And another point lost since Data isn't plugged into anything. Star Trek thinks computers in the future will have 4 sections. Wait, those are windows, aren't they? -1 point for a new black square. They never say what happens to the knowledge of Ira Graves. Maybe it was used to create the holographic doctor. Well, we will never know. Wesley says I, number 2. Data remembers nothing, which gives Riker the chance to end the show on a funny note.
Does wrestling with a Klingon Targ ring a bell? Did I win?
Susie Plaxton will be back in just a few episodes. She was also in How I Met Your Mother. William Morgan Shepherd was born in London and has 190 screen credits, including Babylon 5, Sequest, and Quantum Leap. He was also on Star Trek VI, Voyager, and the first Kelvin Trek movie. And the beautiful Barbara Allen Woods has 55 screen credits, most notably Honey, I Shrunk the Kids TV show and One Tree Hill. She still looks great. And because I was so blown away by her appearance on Star Trek, my book, which nobody reads, she was the inspiration for the main female character. The Schizoid Man, where Data becomes his own grandpa, gets a score of 62%. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.